Good evening. Today is this Tuesday, December 21st, 2021. Time is 6:30 p.m. and I am calling this meeting of the Macomb Township Board of Trustees to order. We will now say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Posey, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Trustee Kuzmano?
Here.
Trustee Lucido?
Here.
Trustee Oliver?
Here.
Trustee Nevers?
Present.
Treasurer Drollet?
Here.
Clerk Posey here. Supervisor Viviano?
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, at this time, I have a request to remove agenda item number 10, and that's all I have at this time.
Any objections?
Move the approval of the agenda with the subtraction of agenda item 10.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that the numerical sequence will remain intact then and not shift up, correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There's no more discussion. We have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Clerk Posey, to approve the agenda as corrected. Members, please vote. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to approval of the bills. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Is there any discussion on this week's bill run? Hearing none, we have a motion by Trustee Nevers, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to approve the bill run. Members, please vote. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 4 is approval of the previous meeting minutes from December 8th, 2021, and the closed session meeting minutes from December 8th, 2021. Is there a motion?
So move.
Support.
Any discussion? We have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Oliver, to approve the previous meeting's minutes and closed session minutes. Members, please vote.
Oh, I'm voting multiple times.
Did it come up twice?
It did.
Did it just come up
It
twice?
did.
Take. Good take.
Good, because I thought there was a glitch in the matrix.
I thought I was losing my mind.
Twice on accident.
Okay.
Okay.
Just waiting for our result to pop up.
Everybody keep voting.
Till we get it right.
And pretty soon we'll be done at the end of the meeting, and we won't know what we voted on.
Meeting at 6:38.
Okay, that motion passes 7-0. All right, we are reaching our first public comment. This is for agenda items only. There'll be another public comment period at the end of the meeting. Anyone who wishes to speak on agenda items may approach the microphone on the right-hand side of the room. Anyone participating digitally, please digitally raise your hand and you will be called upon. I don't see anybody present. Roger, is there anybody participating remotely?
Yeah, it looks like we do have one person wishing to speak, Jay Lamb.
Okay.
Has been unmuted.
Mr. Lamke, can you hear us, please?
Yes.
Could you please state
Can you hear me?
Yes, could you please state your address for the record?
46759 Mill Point.
And what can we do for you? You have a 3-minute time limit.
Okay. In regards to the Pathway Gap program, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but there was a hit and run accident on Fairchild this morning. A guy was left laying in the ditch. Last summer, we were supposed to have sidewalks added to Fairchild. It didn't happen. I was wondering if you're going to place it on a high priority for this spring and summer.
Okay, thank you for your comment, Mr. Lamke. Is there anyone else, Roger? No other speakers. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move the consent agenda in its entirety.
Support. Any discussion on the consent items? Okay, hearing no discussion, motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido, to approve the consent agenda item in its entirety. Members, please vote. Lucido. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, on to new business. Item 8 is a request to purchase pool chemicals for $22,837.50.
So move.
Second.
Mr. DeCaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, board members. Parks and Recreation Department is requesting permission to purchase pool chemicals. We placed the item on Mitten, received 3 bids ranging from $22,837.50 to $39,845. I've included the bids and the confirmation of process memo from the purchasing specialist. We are recommending that we purchase the chemicals from Aquatic Source for a price of $22,837.50. This is, of course, a budgeted item, and I am available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. DeCaro. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Clerk Posey, to purchase pool chemicals in the amount of $22,837.50. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. DeCaro.
Merry Christmas.
Moving on to item 9 is approval of the AFSCME Local 1917 Collective Bargaining Agreement, which would be effective January 1st, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Tabaka.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. I'm here to request approval of a new CBA that was negotiated between Macomb Township and AFSCME Local 1917. The Board of Trustees was advised of the proposed changes at the last board meeting on December 1st, 2021. If approved, the new CBA will take effect January 1st, 2022 and expire on December 31st, 2025. Thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions, we also have Dan Kelly here, our labor attorney, to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Tabaka. Okay, board members, do we have any discussion or questions on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment. Although I agree that with the pay increases, I disagree with the addition of new positions. I'm not opposed to any pay increases or enhancements for individuals with increased responsibilities or expansive responsibilities, but I'm opposed to additional positions being created. Because although the administration indicates that the certain positions will remain vacant, I am against the expansion of employees where the existing employee base is, in my opinion, sufficient to handle the requirements of the township. And I understand the rationales, and they're logical and rational on both sides of the issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Trustee Kuzmano. So just for clarification for any public, this is an issue we've discussed. There, as Trustee Kuzmano rightly pointed out, there will be no increase in total number of staff. There is some new positions created in the AFSCME agreement, but any hiring that has to get done has to be approved by this board, whether it's a position that's currently exists in the collective bargaining agreement or a position that us or a different board in the future would want to create. So we still are in complete control of the number of staff, but because of some reorganizational reasons and some increased responsibilities, there is a proposal in this agreement to add 2 new positions, 3 including the one that we discussed and approved a couple weeks ago with the DPW. Just wanted to state my position on that. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Clerk Posey, to approve the AFSCME Local 1917 collective bargaining agreement that will be effective on January 1st, 2022. Members, please vote. Motion passes 6-1 with trustee Kuzmano voting no. Moving on, so item 10, we deleted. Moving on to item 11, is a request to initiate the recruitment process for the position of Community Relations Liaison, which will be posted at in a range of $45,000 to $65,000 salary. Is there a motion?
So move.
Support.
Mr. Tabaka.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. HR is requesting authorization to initiate the recruitment process for the position of Community Relations Liaison. On September 22nd, 2021, the Board of Trustees approved this position. The description of the Community Relations Liaison. This position was not part of the 2021 budget. However, there is room for the budget due to the fact we have no deputy supervisor, and the salary for this position is below the deputy supervisor salary. Thank you again for your consideration on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Tabaka. And just to reiterate what Mr. Tabaka just said, although this position itself wasn't budgeted for, the salary levels, which would be in my department, the supervisor department, are more than adequate to absorb this for the remainder of this budget year. The range posted is a result of research that both Mr. Tabaka and I did, checking with some other local communications professionals and research on what other local communities invest in their communications departments. We left the range rather broad, as you can see. We are still looking at a wide range of candidates from recent graduates to more experienced people. Open to any questions or comments from the board. Okay, hearing none, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Oliver, to initiate the recruitment process for the position of Community Relations Liaison with a posted range of $45,000 to $65,000. Members, please vote. Motion passes 6-1 with trustee Kuzmano voting no. At this moment, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess, if everyone would bear with me. Return from recess at 6:45. It appears we made an error in removing item 10. There were 2 inspectors that had retired. One has since decided to remain. We still, however, need to post and recruit the 1 inspector that had previously retired. So at this time, is there a motion to add item 10 back to our agenda?
Mr.
So
Chairman,
moved. Go ahead.
I'll make that motion to re-add agenda item 10.
Support. We'll just do a voice vote on that.
You gonna do voice vote?
Yep.
Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion by trustee Kuzmano, supported by trustee Nevers, to add item 10 back to our agenda. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we're going to circle back to item 10, which is a motion, or I'm sorry, is a motion to initiate the recruitment process for the position of water sewer inspector. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Tabaka.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. HR is requesting authorization to initiate the recruitment process for the water and sewer inspector under the MAPE agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Tabaka. Is there any discussion or questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion by Clerk Posey, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to initiate the recruitment process for a water and sewer inspector. Members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, everybody. All right, back on track. Number 12, we have a request to approve the Township CFO position job description and to authorize the Human Resources to recruit internally for this position. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. DeBaca?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. HR is seeking permission to approve the position description for the newly created Township CFO under the new CBA with AFSCME and Local 1917, as well as authorization to recruit for this position according to the language in the CBA. As I mentioned earlier, Dan Kelly is with us if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. DeBaca. Any discussions or question? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion by Clerk Posey, supported by Trustee Oliver, to approve the Township CFO position job description and to authorize the Human Resources to recruit internally. Members, please vote. Motion passes 6-1 with Trustee Kuzmano voting no. Moving on to item 13 is a request to approve the Land Development Director position description and to authorize the Human Resources Director to recruit internally for this position. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. DeBaca?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. HR is seeking permission to approve the position description for the newly created position of Land Development Director under the new CBA with AFSCME and Local 1917, as well as authorization to recruit for this position according to the language in the CBA. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions along with Dan.
Thank you, Mr. DeBaca. Is there any discussion or questions? Hearing none, we have a motion by Trustee Oliver, supported by Treasurer Gillette, to approve the Land Development Director job description and to authorize the Human Resources to recruit internally for this position. Members, please vote. Motion passes 6-1 with Trustee Kuzmano voting no. Moving on to item 14, is a request to authorize the supervisor to enter into a letter of understanding with AFSCME Local 1917. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Mr. DeBaca?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and board members. Gary Wanglin, Water and Sewer Superintendent, has submitted his letter of retirement effective December 31st, 2021. As the township searches for a new DPW director, the township and AFSCME Local 1917 are interested in entering into the letter of an understanding whereby Mr. Wanglin will delay his retirement for up to 12 months. The letter of understanding is attached for your review. And again, if there's any questions, myself and Dan are here to answer.
Thank you, Mr. DeBaca. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Clerk Posey, to authorize the supervisor to enter into an LOU with AFSCME Local 1917. Members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 14, in the Planning Department. We have a request to approve the preliminary plan for the Bluffs at Riverside, permanent parcel 0823251003, located on the west side of North Avenue, just south of 23 Mile Road in Section 23. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Box?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. The preliminary plan, site plan for the Bluffs at Riverside is a single-family residential development proposed on property south of 23 Mile. It is just west of North Avenue and south of the river. Property itself is just north of the existing Riverside development, including the park at Riverside and the village at Riverside. The proposed development would include 116 single-family units and have direct access to North Avenue. The property is zoned R1, which would allow for 3 units per acre, but they are only proposing 2.49 units per acre. All internal departments have reviewed and are recommending approval, and the Planning Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval at the December 7th meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Box. Any discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion by Trustee Oliver, supported by Trustee Lucido, to approve the preliminary plan for the Bluffs at Riverside, permanent parcel 0823251003. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 16 is a request to promote a probationary firefighter, Ryan Oak, to full-time status, or off probationary status.
So move.
Second.
Peter? Chief?
Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, I'm requesting your approval this evening to promote probationary auxiliary firefighter Ryan Oak to the position of auxiliary firefighter. Probationary firefighter Oak has completed his 12-month probationary period and is recommended for promotion by the Probationary Development Committee and myself. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief. Any discussions or questions? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido, to promote Ryan Oak from probationary status. Members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0.
This time I'd like to call firefighter Oak for his helmet, shield, and his badge.
Congratulations. Moving on, item 17 is the first
Mr.
board.
Chair, I would move that we consolidate items 17, 18, and 19, and move that we reappoint Elizabeth Clemens, Phyllis Charbot, and Kenneth Siegel to the Macomb Township Board of Review for 2-year terms set to expire December 31st, 2023.
Support.
Okay. Any discussion on the board, these board reappointments?
Mr. Chairman, I have a general question regarding all of them through agenda item 25. It's my understanding, and perhaps I'm wrong, that there was no inquiry made for the public for submission of applications for these positions. Is that accurate, or was there a process followed where?
For most of them, that would be accurate. The serving members were asked if they wanted to continue serving in the roles they've been serving in. And nearly all of them, short from Planning Commission, requested to remain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido, to reappoint Elizabeth Clemens, Phyllis Charbot, and Kenneth Siegel to the Macomb Township Board of Review for a 2-year term to expire on December 31st, 2023. Members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to consolidate items 20 and 21, and move to reappoint Aaron Tuckfield and Don Slauson to the Macomb Township Zoning Board of Appeals for 3-year terms set to expire December 31st, 2024.
Support.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion on the reappointments of Mr. Tuckfield and Ms. Lawson? Hearing none, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Nevers, to reappoint Aaron Tuckfield and Don Slauson to the Macomb Township Zoning Board of Appeals for 3-year terms set to expire December 31st, 2024. Members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Next are the Planning Commission appointments.
Mr. Chair, I move that we consolidate items 22 and 23 and approve the appointment of Kathy Smith and Richard Marley to the Macomb Township Planning Commission for 3-year terms set to expire December 31st, 2024.
Support.
Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido, to appoint Kathy Smith and Richard Marley to the Macomb Township Planning Commission for a 3-year term set to expire December 31st, 2024. Members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Congratulations to our two new members of the Planning Commission. Moving on.
Chair, I move to consolidate items 24 and 25 and make a motion to reappoint David Piper and Joseph Witulski to the Macomb Township Historical Commission for 3-year terms set to expire December 31st, 2024.
Support.
Is there any discussion on these reappointments? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion to reappoint David Piper and Joseph Witulski to the Macomb Township Historical Commission for a 3-year term set to expire December 31st, 2024. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Lucido. Members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Item 26.
Chair, I move to reappoint James Burke to the Macomb Township Act 345 Fire Retirement System Board for a 4-year term set to expire December 31st, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion on Mr. Burke's reappointment?
Mr. Chairman, I noted that there was no biographical information on this reappointment. Is there anyone on the board or representative of the Fire Retirement Board, System Board, that can give me a little biography or background of Mr. Burke?
Treasurer Gillette serves on that board.
I couldn't give you a biography of Mr. Burke. I can just tell you he's been an engaged and active member on the board since I've been here and seems to do his homework and due diligence, but his, biography, I don't have that.
There is in the board packet, though. On page 182,
There's a biography?
not a biography, but
It's his,
pretty
it's his
detailed.
discussion about him.
his reapplication appointments, or reapplication is in there, right?
Yeah, and all
All
his
right.
career profile and everything is
I
here.
didn't see it in the type.
Yeah, it was a little bit further down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I will ask if he has a biography.
I'll rely on Treasurer Gillette's representation as to his
Scared me.
bona
a little.
fides.
Okay,
Chairman.
you're welcome, Mr. Kuzmano. We have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Clerk Posey, to reappoint James Burke to the Macomb Township Act 345 Fire Retirement Board for a 4-year term set to expire on December 31st, 2025. Members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. All right, moving on to item 27. As a request to award the switch replacement and cable cleanup project for $57,765.02 to IT Right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
I can give a little background on this. This is a project, as I just mentioned in the board memo, that has been in the works since early spring. The switches in our basement are all end of life. It was identified as one of the top priorities by our current IT service provider, which is BPI, whose contract is expiring at the end of this year. I asked our incoming IT company, IT Right, who we approved a few meetings back, to provide a quote for this service. We had originally budgeted $75,000 to have this work done in this budget year. The amount they are proposing, or they are in their proposal, is $57,765, so it's well under what we had budgeted already. And I'm asking the board to approve this project. Questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a statement. I'll be voting no because I voted no as to the purchasing policy exemption 4.1G, which exempts from competitive bidding an existing vendor that provides a lump sum fee. I'm not satisfied that the purchasing policy protects the taxpayer's interests and that we really don't know that we're receiving the best value for the dollar without the competitive bidding process. This is a fundamental matter of principle with me, but I respectfully dissent from the application of purchasing policy exemptions, which preclude even an attempt to find a competitive or comparable bid. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, trustee Kuzma. Any other comments or questions?
How long, just one quick, how long is this gonna take?
A long weekend. They're proposing 16 hours of work. That's what they anticipate. I imagine they're going to send 2 techs on a Saturday. And the plan is to pull apart our IT room in the basement, remove all the old equipment, reinstall new switches, reset all the cables. If you've been down there, it's kind of a mess. Cables everywhere that from equipment that's been added over the years, and sort of button everything up nice and neat and clean so we have functioning equipment, and we're confident that it's going to be solid going forward.
Okay, and are they working with the suppliers of the equipment, or are they?
They
representing-
provided quotes for each piece of equipment. It's in the board packet. You can, and anybody can actually, I did this already. I searched online for the same pieces of equipment to see what could be bought if they were bought directly. All the prices are competitive with what's available on the market.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion by, do we have the motion by? Clerk Posey, supported by trustee Nevers, to award the switch replacement cable cleanup project for $57,765.02 to IT Right. Members, please vote. Motion passes 6-1 with trustee Kuzmano voting no. Item 28 is a request to approve the resolution to participate in the opioid settlement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
I'm going to turn this over to our attorney who can explain the benefits of entering into this settlement agreement. I'm sorry, Mr. Tom, who wants to take it?
I think Attorney Kelly.
Okay, Attorney Kelly,
Did the
jump in.
letter. I'm sure Tim's familiar with it as well, but there's a national opioid settlement with Johnson & Johnson and 3 other pharmaceutical companies. Michigan has opted into that settlement. This would allow the township to opt in. There's been an estimate of approximately the payout might be somewhere around $193,000 over 18 years, so it's a long period of time. But this is just the first step to establish that the township is interested in participating in that settlement.
And the deadline for opting in is January 3rd.
Yes.
So this is our last opportunity at this board meeting to authorize me to sign off on all those opt-in agreements. And then I think once all the communities have opted in, they'll recalculate the number, give us a different amount.
Yes, the higher the percentage of opt-ins throughout the state, the more money the state gets.
And then there is a limitation on what those funds can be used for.
Yes.
It is for, as I understand it, treatment, prevention, and related education related to opioid abuse.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question. What happens if we don't opt in? Are we still in a lawsuit against them then?
No, you'd have to pursue it on your own.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Got a quick question. Just, if everything went smooth, when would we see money?
That's kind of up in the air, but they're hoping actually as quick as possibly in the spring. It's probably likely to draw out a little farther than that. The settlement with the pharmaceutical companies has been reached. Now it's just a matter of distributing the money throughout the state, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question. Are there any specific programs that are proposed, or will that be decided later
To spend the money on?
to spend the actual money?
Nothing has been determined yet.
More or less categories at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you, trustee Kuzma. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion by trustee Oliver, supported by treasurer Gillette, to approve the resolution to participate in the opioid settlement. Clerk Posey, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Trustee Oliver,
Yes.
Treasurer Drollet,
Yes.
Trustee Kuzimano,
Yes.
Trustee Lucido,
Yes.
Trustee Nevers,
Yes.
Clerk Posey, yes. Supervisor Viviano.
Yes. The motion passes, or that resolution is adopted. All right, moving on to item 29, we have a request to amend the Township of Macomb Code of Ordinances, Chapter 16, Article 1, Section 16-24A regarding driveways. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Badamo, I got you here. Can we ask you a couple questions? So for background, this issue came up because we had a resident who had a contractor remove his circular driveway in front of his house before he was aware that our current code prohibited it, and he wasn't allowed to replace it, according to code. In discussions with Mr. Tomlinson, Mr. Badamo, and Mr. Maples, we talked through the residents' issues, and we determined that making a couple of allowances in the ordinance so that a homeowner who properly permitted and went through the process of installing a circular drive could in fact reinstall it if they were ever to repair it. Currently, Mr. Badano, what's our current code call for?
So the current code calls for, in order to be able to install either a U-shaped driveway or circle driveway, you need to have a minimum 140 feet of road frontage.
And what does a typical subdivision house have in Macomb Township?
70 feet is the minimum, but corner lots will usually have 120 foot. So thus we're really trying to eliminate all the concrete going in these residential settings. But again, that's only been probably on the books for the last 4 years.
Right. So we have a number of homeowners throughout our township, including some in my own neighborhood, who have these circular driveways. If they get to a point where they get in disrepair, we want to be able to allow them to at least maintain their property in the way that they bought it. And we thought that was a reasonable adjustment. We also added, Mr. Badamo, can you explain why we added the portion in respects to the roads with 35 miles an hour or greater?
Yes. The residential lots at front on the major thoroughfares, really, they benefit from having an ability to not have to back out onto the major roads. So either a circle driveway, U-shaped driveway, or also a turnaround pad at the front of the property allows them to maneuver and then pull out onto the main road rather than backing out onto the main road.
Thank you, Mr. Badamo. So for those reasons, we're proposing these changes basically to make our community a little more safe in regards to all these homes that are on the main roads, and B, to make sure that our homeowners can maintain the properties as they purchase them.
Mr. Chair, I think this is one of those times that we can appreciate and agree that using circular logic applies appropriately for this ordinance.
Killing me. Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Any other questions or comments about this change in the ordinance? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Kuzmano, to amend the Township of Macomb Code of Ordinances, Chapter 16, Article 1, Section 16-24A. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 30, we have a request to approve the proposal for professional architectural services for town hall basement improvements in the amount of $27,600. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Support.
So what's before you today, again, as described in the board memo, is a project that we've been working on at Town Hall to prepare, largely to prepare for the next round of elections. Anyone who was here realizes how incredibly overtaxed this building was. We're trying to get residents moved in and out. So I'm going to ask Stacy to step up to the mic because I'm going to put her on the spot for a second. This is not a budgeted project. However, this is a project that we feel can come out of our COVID funds, which we have not yet allocated to anything. So Stacy, can you describe to us how we can make those funds available for this project?
Sure. To give a little background, in May of 2021, the township was awarded a $7.2 million grant from the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. The award was to be given in 2 equally divided trenches. We did receive the first trench of money in June of this year for $3.6 million, and we should receive the second one next June in 2022. The request to build out the basement for an election center is an eligible use of funds under this grant. And during the budget process last year, we had not anticipated what the monies could be used for, and therefore no specific line item was budgeted for this project. We do have a budget of $94,700 in our capital improvements line item that currently has no specific projects tied to it. Once we have AEW bid out the project and I can get the timing of expenses, I will have a better idea if there needs to be an amendment this year or just to include the expenses in the next year. So as Mr. Viviano said, this is the first project that we will be utilizing the grant funds for if you approve this project tonight. Any other questions?
No, well, not for me. But so the last thing I want to comment on, so the $27,600 gets us the remaining design and services to get us a set of construction documents that we can then put out for bid.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could summarize, when we built this current year budget, we did not touch a 3.5 or 3.6 million that had been awarded in that first section because we weren't sure how it could be used.
Correct.
We used a small amount of it because we knew that would be allowable, but the majority of it we didn't budget at all. We set it aside till we got better direction from the Federal Department of Treasury and until we had a better set of ideas on how that money is best appropriated. So this is moving us down that path. That money, by the way, does have to be used by a date certain. The entire 7.2 million, I believe, is 2025.
Yes, it has to be obligated by December of 2024 and spent by December of 2026.
Okay. So, thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Any questions or discussion or questions for Stacy on this?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, maybe the clerk could answer. An election center, is that gonna be a multi-purpose floor plan, or is it just for elections? And do we have precinct voting here in Township Hall?
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, no, there are not precinct voting in Town Hall. We have precincts over at the rec center, and next year we'll be adding them to the library. The Town Hall is utilized for absentee voting only.
The count?
No, and you can come to the clerk's office, request your ballot. We have voting booths here, and then they can return their ballot to us to be counted on election day.
Okay.
And that taxes us with building space. But the election center, the way we designed it specifically is wide open space so that it can be utilized. And for instance, we had a large conference not too long ago where we couldn't accommodate all the people attending in this room. So it can be used for office space, it can be used for other conferences, it can be used for just about anything. We didn't segregate it to be specific to an election center. We left it open, and I can then set it up accordingly. It will be used as an election center and both absentee counting boards, so it's going to serve 2 purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Trustee Kuzmano. Any other questions? Okay. Motion to approve the proposal for professional architectural services for Town Hall basement improvements in the amount of $27,600. Oh, I'm sorry. Motion by Clerk Posey, supported by Trustee Lucido. Members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to item 31. We have a request to approve HVAC preventative maintenance and web control contract extension. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Jason was unable to come tonight. Janet, can you give us a little bit about this since you helped formulate it?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you, Board. The township currently has 2 contracts with Metro Controls for HVAC services. One of them is a preventative maintenance contract, and that expires at the end of this year. The second one is a web controls contract, and that expires end of April 2022. Both the contracts have negotiated pricing and for services and hourly rates for additional service needs as required. And the vendor has agreed to extend both of those agreements until the end of June of 2022. And what this will allow us to do is to bring the new the new supervisor on board of the DPW director, and they would be able to then participate in the selection of the new contractor for these services, and then also it will give us the opportunity to align those 2 contracts.
Thank you,
Happy to
Janet.
answer any questions.
Well, okay, so this contract sort of snuck up on us, to be honest, so we needed a bit of a cushion so that we could put these services out for bid. Is that correct, Janet?
Yes, it did, and part of the confusion was that the fact that they were on 2 different cycles.
Right.
Those contracts were both started at different times.
So this is just a brief extension of the same pricing, same vendor, and in the interim, Janet will be assembling a bid package to send the services out for bid. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Clerk Posey, to approve the HVAC Preventative Maintenance and Web Control Contract Extension. Members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. All right, moving to item 32.
Chair, I make a motion to approve a deviation from the purchase policy.
Support.
And
So Janet, can you kind of give us some background on how we ended up with this item on the agenda today?
Yep. The current agreement for the Macomb Township ambulance service with MedStar expired in July of 2021, so just this past July. And since July, MedStar has continued to provide ambulance service within the township on a month-to-month basis. On November 23rd of this year, an RFP was issued with the intent of entering into a 5-year agreement with an ambulance service provider. The deadline for receiving bids in the clerk's office was December 15th, 2021. One bid from Universal Macomb Ambulance Service Incorporated was received in the clerk's office prior to the due date and time. A bid opening was conducted in Town Hall immediately following the bid due date. Approximately 15 minutes prior to the bid opening, MedStar contacted the clerk's office to communicate that the individual delivering the MedStar bid response was experiencing a medical emergency on the side of the road and was awaiting an ambulance transport to the hospital. At 12:51 on December 15th, so a little bit later that day, the MedStar bid was delivered to the clerk's office. Based on the situation, the supervisor's office has requested a deviation from the purchasing policy to allow the township the opportunity to execute the RFP process with both bidders or multiple bidders. Keeping the intent of the purchasing policy intact, the clerk's office is requesting discussion and a board vote to consider a deviation due to the unusual circumstances.
So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and then everybody else can chime in. To the best of your knowledge, has anyone in the township reviewed the content of any of the bids?
No.
Can I ask, as the purchasing specialist, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is that we proceed as the purchasing policy is written and reject the late bid as non-responsive and move forward with the bid we received.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I believe that there are 2 responsible and reasonable ways we could approach this particular bid process. One is to agree with the purchasing director, which I think is a reasonable position, that the that the other bidder did not comply with the requirements of the bidding process by getting the bid turned in on time, regardless of their personal medical situation. So I think that's a reasonable approach. However, I believe that another reasonable approach is our goal is to have as many bids as possible for services that the township provides, so we can hopefully select the bid that most benefits the residents. I'm hoping that if we restart the bidding process, being that we only got one bid under this existing bid, that we will attract other bidders. So having said that, if I'm able, I'd like to amend my motion to authorize the township to reinitiate the bidding process for the contracting of ambulance services. And if seconded, just speak
Trustee
again to
Nevers,
that.
would you support the amendment?
I'm sorry?
Would you support Treasurer Gillette's amendment?
Yes.
So, just again to reiterate, I think at this point, we are not harmed by opening up the bidding process and restarting the process again, hoping to solicit additional bids. So I think that's a better path for looking for the best value for our residents, the best service for the residents.
Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. I'm the one who asked this to be put on the agenda to have this discussion. I'm in favor of, I understand the purchasing specialist position, and I appreciated her job is to protect the integrity of the process, but the purchasing policy also allows us as a board to make decisions that are in the best interest of the township. And I think in this unique circumstance, that the integrity of the closed bidding process has been preserved, that we can restart the bidding process, and I think it's safe to assume that we will at least have, 2 competitive bids to review, and then we're better able to choose what will best service our township when it comes to ambulance services. So my opinion is to restart the bidding process.
Question. If it gets restarted, is there a time? What's our window?
So Janet, if we were to restart bidding process, what would be from here forward, what would we do?
Bids are left out a minimum of 14 days. And
Could we
so
get it posted as early as tomorrow, or would we have to wait till after the break?
We could get it posted as early as tomorrow,
Okay.
and we would determine an appropriate due date based on that.
Could I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Are you saying if we put it out tomorrow, are we gonna be closed for over 2 weeks? Will we get the bid back, or will that be a problem?
Well, we are closed for the break between Christmas and New Year, and that would definitely require, if there are any modifications to any of the bids that we received previously, those would have to be done during that time frame or shortly after, depending on when we establish the due date. And any new bids that may come in would have to be developed over that time prior to the due date. So we would be off, but that doesn't necessarily mean the bidders would be.
It could be
The 2 weeks is a minimum. It doesn't mean we can't set it for 3 weeks to make sure we
Correct.
give people
And I
a
think we did
long enough
just-
time to ask questions
Right.
and get answers back from the township before their bids are submitted. Yes,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question? I want to make sure we're clear. Are we asking those that have submitted the bids just to modify their bids or supplement them, or are we completely starting from scratch?
starting from scratch.
Okay, I think we just need to make sure that's clear because,
The bids we received will be disposed of. No one has read them, and they will start from scratch.
very well, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
My understanding, well, first, was there been any communication with Universal?
Yes.
To what effect? Summary, please.
We communicated the situation to Universal. Like the general representative is here tonight. He was explaining the situation. I explained to him what my intention was in coming to the board tonight. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he sent an email today expressing that if we rebid the process, that he was going to add information to his bid. Is that correct? Yep. So he didn't object to the process. I believe it's prudent that he probably wanted to allow the board to make a decision independent of any influence on his part, but again, I don't want to speak for him.
Now, I understand that MedStar's bid was not in a sealed envelope, is that correct?
That is correct. It came in a box and it wasn't really, but it never did leave my desk. That got stamped in and it was been on my desk ever since with no one has tampered with it or looked through it.
To your knowledge?
To my knowledge, yes.
And you stated, to the best of your knowledge, no one looked at the bid packages from Universal which came in, and were they all returned to you in unopened envelopes?
I have all bids that I distributed returned to me unopened with the exception of one. It was sliced open, not reviewed, and returned to me.
Was it in your possession the entire time that?
The one she's referring to was delivered to my office.
Oh, so it was with the supervisor's
Yes.
office?
Nothing was even taken out of the envelope. It sat there, and the moment I got it is when everything was communicated to me what had happened, and that's when I froze the process.
Okay. And could you describe for the board the risks associated with deviating from a strict compliance with the purchasing policy when it comes to sealed bidding? What are the risks?
Well, I think perception, a poor perception within the bidders, that is a risk of not complying with the policy, and are there ulterior motives? That's always a risk. But beyond that, that's it's not a service that we typically are charged for or billed for. It's usually, at least our current agreement is that service is provided to the township for $0 from the township for the township cost, and all the revenues that are generated by billing insurance companies.
Mr.
The level of
Tomlinson,
service.
is there any risk associated with restarting the bidding process that you can identify?
Well, unfortunately, as Ms. Solomon has always done very well in her bidding documents and specifications, she clearly reserves the right for this body to reject any and all bids, or to waive any informalities or anything of that nature. And I think that's what this board is doing. And you're allowed to do that if you deem as a board it's in the best interest of the township. And we've heard some of you speak to that fact, that you believe, being that it may open it up to more than one bid, it gives you a greater opportunity to provide the best services to your community. So we have within our bid specifications language that permits us to take actions such as this, where even if the bid was opened and somehow it was determined that it was just way out of line, you still would have the right to reject it and go out for bid. Now, fortunately, that didn't occur, and we stopped the process right from the get-go once we were concerned about what was going on and the lack of receiving any additional bids. So I don't think that, other than the concerns a bidder may have are at play here. I think that we've taken all remedial measures we potentially could to avoid any appearance of impropriety or anything of that nature. And quite frankly, stopped it much more quickly than I would have expected. So I thought that was commendable from the purchasing specialist.
Mr. Chairman, through the chair, to the purchasing specialist, if your recommendation is adopted by the board, what purpose does the selection committee have? Will there be a selection committee process if there's a single bid that's?
Yes, the process would be executed in the same manner regardless of the number of bids. We would unfortunately, by accepting just one bid, we would not have multiple people and companies to interview and make an assessment of services.
So the selection committee still needs to make sure that this
absolutely
vendor can provide the services according to the specifications set forth in the.
Yes, and that has not been done since none of the bids have been reviewed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Trustee Guzmano.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just want to make it clear that the process and the policy indicates that it would be rejected if it wasn't stamped in at the deadline time. Generally speaking, this bid that came in late would be immediately rejected and not even considered. I felt that it's my job to make sure that the policy, especially when it comes to these bids, remains intact, and there was an exception due to an emergency. That's the only reason that's being considered tonight. We brought it to Frank's attention, and I felt that I should not be making that decision unilaterally. It should be a board decision as to whether or not they want to deviate due to an emergency situation. But going forward, should something like this arise and it's not due to an emergency, those bids will be rejected and we will move forward as the policy indicates. So I just want to be clear on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, since an email from the universal bidder has been mentioned in this discussion, I'd ask that the chair consider allowing him to address the board and give his perspective.
Would you like to make a comment? Sure. Please step up to the mic.
Good evening, Board. I appreciate the chance to speak. My name's Duncan Walker. I'm the president of Universal Ambulance. I think you're spot on in the sense of wanting to make sure you're doing your due diligence with your emergency medical services. That's not something you want to take lightly by any means. So if you choose to go through the selection process and review us first, if you choose to rebid it, I appreciate the diligence in making sure our bid was secure and everything of that nature. So I certainly don't want to make this a difficult process for you, especially not around the holidays. We're going to make a very strong bid, and we think we can offer your community something great. And I'm from Macomb County. I grew up right down the street. So whatever you choose to do, we have no intention of making it difficult for you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, a couple questions. Under an RFP, are we bound to accept only one bid? We just have to go with it, or can we, because of only one bid came in, restart the process?
I don't think our purchasing policy automatically rejects a single bid if it's the only one.
No, it does not. It does not reject the bid if it's the only one. We have the latitude, as Mr. Tomlinson said, of rejecting any and all bids. So even if we had multiple bids and we did not feel that any of the bidders were qualified, we could reject all of the bids and restart the process. So that language is written into each RFP to allow the board to execute in the best interest of the township.
Okay. So, another question. If we only received the two bids, one and then one after the fact, I mean, what would be your opinion if we did this all over again? Would we probably receive the same two bids anyway? Or do you think opening up more time would give more opportunity?
I think we will likely end up with just the two bids. There's licensing that's required to operate in Macomb County, and there, I think, are only maybe 3 that actually have that ability right now. And part of the discussion that we had in even going out for bid, is there anyone else out there who's interested in obtaining licensing to service our community? And it did not appear that that was the case from the initial bid that went out.
And then during the selection process, I understand we would only be looking at one if we were to just go with what we have right now. Are we not allowed to compare to our current services and say, okay, maybe they didn't bid it, but they are our current carrier? Can we compare and contrast between the two and make a decision from there whether we're going to retain our current services or go with the bids that we received?
Well, our contract has expired for our current services, so I guess
okay.
that would leave us somewhat exposed if we were just to continue working with them on a month-to-month basis.
Okay. And then just a comment. I personally don't like setting a precedent of making special considerations. I am sympathetic to a personal emergency. if there's any other way we can reopen it without making a special consideration or review both bids without making a special consideration, that's just my opinion on that. I don't want to open up and set a precedent saying, well, you allowed it for this bid process, I stubbed my toe, I want to, bring mine in 2 hours late. So I don't want to.
My personal view is that accepting a late bid is a far more damaging method than starting from scratch. Accepting the late bid was something that I was considering at least proposing to this board to vote on. That's sort of, to me, that's the precedent we're talking about. But I think starting from scratch actually preserves the not just the integrity of the process, but in the spirit of the purchase policy, making sure that we're getting competitive bids. To your first point, Tim, you and I talked briefly. Did you tell me, is it true that there are communities that have in their purchasing policies, if there's a single bidder, the option of rejecting the bids just on that cause alone?
You have that option no matter what. I mean, regardless if you receive one bid or more than one bid. If you feel that maybe it wasn't competitive because the specs were too tight or whatever the case may be, and I've seen that in the past, where you feel that there's other qualified persons, but maybe there was just something in the request for proposal that severely restricted someone. For instance, we're going to require so-and-so you have to have 10 years of experience. Well, maybe that cuts out a big pool of people that maybe only have 5 years of experience. So there's sometimes communities will reject a bid because they look at the bid again because they're questioning what are they really asking for, and maybe that's being too restrictive. But that's an ability that you have no matter what. I'm not familiar with any communities that have a provision that if there's only one bid, there's an automatic rejection. Not familiar with that, at least in any of the communities I've represented.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I would just like to add that I mirror Mr. Trustee Lucido's concerns. The clerk's office it's our responsibility to hold the integrity of the process. And I just fear that if we allow for a late bid, regardless of the situation, it would possibly set precedent. So I will be voting no on this deviation. With all due respect to the individual that had the medical emergency, I am sympathetic to that. In my heart, I hope they're okay, but to keep the integrity of the process, I won't be in favor of it.
Thank you, Clerk Posey.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question that's come up since the discussions evolved. To the purchasing agent, is it possible to secure coverage from MedStar as part of a renewed or restarted bidding process? In other words, you mentioned that there's exposure that we not have coverage for the township.
Are you asking if we can extend the existing agreement?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think as a board, we could have voted to do that at any time. But we had always intended to go out for bid. We unfortunately were so waylaid with other things we didn't get done as quickly as we normally would have. Would that be accurate?
That would be accurate, yes.
Well, I don't want to read the tea leaves because I'm a proponent of competitive bidding. I think it's the bedrock on which it's the mechanism by which we assure value, fair market value for goods and services for the township. I'm just concerned that if we proceed in the way that you proposed from the purchasing department, that could MedStar leave us high and dry?
In theory.
Yeah, in theory.
You don't have a
there's
contract with
nothing-
us.
Yeah, there's nothing obligating them to continue to service the community. No written agreement.
I don't think they would do that.
Yeah.
But
So and MedStar was aware that we were having this meeting today, is that correct?
I did not notify MedStar.
I did not have I did not talk to MedStar about this.
how did the representative from Universal come to knowledge that we were going to be deciding this issue today?
Because my office contacted him along with the purchasing specialist in the clerk's office to communicate to him that I stopped the bidding process and the reasons I did so.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything further.
So, again, just for the record, I understand the clerk's position, and in most circumstances, I would agree. I think we have a unique circumstance here. So I'm in favor of restarting the bidding process, but unless there's any other discussion, we can vote. Oh,
So
okay.
you want to start it from scratch?
Correct.
You just want, the bids that you got sitting there now,
Toss, and we'll start from scratch. And a few weeks from now, we'll have some new bids, hopefully, and we'll have the review committee go through them and select a provider to recommend to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a statement. I believe that Universal has acted in good faith. They put their bid, they followed the rules, and what is the result of the proposal to reopen the bidding process is that there's no ramifications for not following the rules and the purchasing policy and the bid specifications that were set forth. And therefore, I'll be voting against the motion.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. If it weren't a medical emergency that necessitated their late submission, I would agree with you, but that's the unique circumstance that is leaning me towards restarting the process.
were they coming with the bid? And
They were on the way.
was it auto accident or what actually happened?
Heart issue, whether it was
The
a
carrier, the representative from MedStar,
had
had a medical emergency. He was bringing,
had to call his own company to come by ambulance, took him to the hospital.
they had to bid.
They had the bid. That's what we were told.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chair, if I just would like to clarify the reason I made the motion, I totally understand the purchasing manager and the clerk's position. I think it's rational, logical, and fair. So I think I totally agree with them in principle. Yeah, I think there's another argument that can be made, both equally valid, that our obligation is to the residents. And if we can allow for more bidders in a process that is fair, restarting it is still a fair process. We're restarting a fair process from scratch to allow more bidders. And the obligation is to provide as many options to provide the best service to residents. So I don't think there's a bad argument that's been made here tonight.
Agreed.
Mr. Chairman, one last comment. I think we're operating blind when it comes to value for the taxpayers because the selection committee hasn't even reviewed not even a single proposal or bid document. So other than the principle and the ideal of competitive bidding process, which the board has voted to grant exceptions on, including the planning of the floor plan for the basement, the
switch replacement project.
switch replacement project, and professional architectural services by AEW on item 30. We don't, it seems to be that we're applying inconsistent application of the purchasing policy. In that regard, I would just, again, voice my opposition to the motion. If Universal has to jump through the hoops of the selection committee, and if they're not qualified and a good value, that the selection committee can make a recommendation to not accept that bid.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Guzman.
And I want to thank my fellow trustees and board members for fleshing out all these issues, because I think it's important that we show the community that we're looking out after their best interests through the purchasing policy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One more question.
Sure.
So will the motion be to deviate from the purchase policy or to just restart?
To deviate from the purchasing policy by restarting.
By restarting, okay.
That's the motion.
One more comment. I still think we can achieve the same goal for the taxpayers if we keep with the purchasing policy, review the one bid that came in, and I still think we can compare it to our current services and decide whether to accept or reject that bid, and then either, re-sign on with MedStar or ask MedStar if we can extend for another month while we review the bidding process because we haven't made a determination. And then if it's not, comparable to what we currently have, put it out for bid again. And not have to set a precedent of deviating from the policy. So that's my opinion on it.
Without the MedStar bid, we would not have knowledge of prices that would be charged the community to utilize services. I can only go based off of what I have on file right now of current charges. So there's really no way I could make that assessment moving forward what those charges would be.
That's the risk. You would only be comparing to historical data from MedStar. We wouldn't know what their proposal was going forward.
But isn't their fee schedule posted on their website? And then wasn't there a zero subsidy to the township mentioned at a previous meeting?
They have been subsidized in the past. I don't know what their agreement was with other communities. Currently, they were not being subsidized by Macomb Township, but that was only recent in the last few years.
But I think
We
at a
don't
previous
know.
meeting, he mentioned something like
Right.
that.
It had cycled down
Yeah.
to zero in his last contract, so we don't know what it would be going forward without getting a bid and looking at it.
Mr. Chairman, I believe they're contractually obligated to provide the township with a fee schedule per the contract.
There is no contract. The contract expired.
Month to month, it would be course of dealings. They'd probably have to.
I do have the most recent fee schedule from them. I got that prior to even issuing the bid.
No, I had requested that from your office. Did you send me a copy
I
of it?
did send you that.
All right, I'll take a look. So it does exist.
So do we have a month-to-month contract or no contract?
They are continuing to service us even though our contract is expired. We don't have a monthly fee that they are charging us to maintain that service, but they receive their revenues by through utilization by the community.
But just to clarify, they're continuing to provide a service,
They
but
are
we have no
continuing.
contract.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, I feel since I'm the only one that hasn't made a statement that I need to get on the record. It seems to me that neither bid has been opened, correct?
Correct.
And so, no harm, no foul. We had a medical emergency, and, heart issues are serious. It's not like he stubbed his toe or whatever. So I'm inclined to start over from scratch. That would be my position.
Thank you, Trustee Nevers. I think we all understand both sides of the issue, and again, I think Treasurer Gillette said adequately, they're both have merit. I think are we ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Nevers, to approve this deviation from the purchasing policy by restarting the bidding process for ambulance services. Members, please vote. Motion passes 4-3 with Trustee Kuzmano, Trustee Lucido, and Clerk Posey voting no. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Janet. Okay. We are now moving on to public comment. This is for non-agenda items. If anyone present wishes to speak, please approach the microphone to the right. You have a 3-minute time limit. If you are participating remotely, please digitally raise your hand. As I see it now, nobody present wishes to speak. Roger, is there anybody digitally who wishes to speak?
Yes, we do have one individual, David Piper.
Okay.
He's unmuted.
Mr. Piper?
Yes, this Dave Piper. I was reappointed to the Historical Commission this evening, and I just want to thank you for that reappointment. But I'd also like to point out that we could use additional members on the Historical Commission in order to preserve our township history. We are only a 5-member organization, and several of our members are up in age and are limited in how much they can do for us. So I would encourage any township residents that are interested in our local history to apply to add members. It's strictly a volunteer position. So, and the rewards are great. And I love learning about the history even before I moved into the township in '82. I've been here for 39 years, and I've learned so much in the last couple of years since I've been on this board. So I'm hopeful we can get some additional members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Piper.
Thank you.
Roger, is there anyone else?
No, no one else.
All right, no one else digitally wishes to participate? Oh, I think we have one more person. Well, hello there.
Hello, everyone.
Now's a good time,
Approach
sir.
the
If you could
microphone,
approach
sir.
the microphone over to the side of the.
So first, let me say thank you. Sir, we need your name and address for the record. It is Chris Kringle, 1 Snowflake Lane, North Pole. Thank you. But first, I want to say thank you to everyone, again, for inviting me out to the lighting ceremony. It was fantastic. I know that Macomb Township is going to have an excellent new year and a Merry Christmas. And to help make that a little better, I've shown up today to present a few gifts.
Well, it's very kind of you,
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Kringle. I mean, Santa. Can I call you Santa?
Santa, oh, that's what all my friends call me.
So, I'm surprised that you found the time. I thought you were really busy at this time of year.
It's extremely busy, and the traffic in this area is extremely tough. Now, I don't have a demon Hellcat red eye to help me get through the traffic.
What about a red nose?
But I do have a Rudolph the Red-Nosed, which was very helpful today. So, for all of the board members, I know that you guys all have a very, very difficult job to do all year long, making decisions that benefit this township. So today I've come to present gifts for each of you to help you on that journey and hopefully make this a great year, upcoming year for Macomb Township.
That's very thoughtful, Santa.
Okay, so first, for 3 of the trustees, Lucido, Cusmano, and Mr. Oliver. I know that sometimes making decisions is not easy. I know that sometimes in the world of politics, they are not always seemingly right or what we want to agree with, but decisions must be made either way. So for each of you, as I reach into my sack,
Magic 8-ball.
I have a magic 8-ball.
Frank, you're too smart.
Way to ruin it.
There we are. Wow. So it may not always provide the right answer.
What's with the weird looking
It
owl?
may not always provide the best answer, but it will definitely give you an answer to start with.
Wow.
Always wanted one of these, Santa.
You're very welcome, Charlie.
It kind of matches the top of your head there, Charlie.
I was kind of hoping for a new John Deere, but this is going to get me one.
Now, for Trustee Nevers, who is in the same position, but I know from my elves, they always tell me she must ask one question before she ever makes a decision, and that is, what would President Trump do? I have a special President Trump edition 8-ball just for you.
Excellent. Somebody knows my heart. Thank you. Oh, great.
I think this
It's a Christmas ornament?
It's
opening those presents quickly, aren't they?
It's very exciting.
I thought it might say, do you miss me yet?
See what happens.
Do it again.
One more time.
What is it saying?
Don't worry about it.
Great, thank you.
Supervisor,
Thank you, Santa.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Yes, Trustee Oliver.
excuse me, Santa.
Yes,
There's
sir.
something really important. Can I amend a few votes? Man, I'm really looking at this thing seriously now. So.
And
Go
so,
on, Santa.
following on with Trustee Nevers, I have a special present for Clerk Posey, and that is a gift certificate for one free forensic election audit. So, please make sure that you use this carefully and wisely.
Just what I always wanted.
Oh, that is special.
Thank you.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Especially signed by the man himself.
Wow. And next, for everybody's favorite treasurer, Mr. Drolet, some scissors to help you cut budgets and reduce within the township.
Wow.
Take them well. Make sure that you don't run with those. I don't want to see anybody getting hurt.
Okay, thank you, Santa.
That could be a serious injury.
That's a,
Some heavy-duty scissors.
wow, that's some major
Some
budget.
text cutting to do.
Put your eye out with that, kid.
Thank you, Santa.
You're welcome. And finally, for Township Supervisor Viviano, I'd like to deliver this one personally, if I may.
No problem, Santa.
We know that being the leader of the township, you must deflect lots and lots of criticism. You have to make tough decisions that not everybody agrees with. So I'm presenting to you this Teflon vest where all of those comments and criticism will fall off of you without any
Wow.
sticking.
That is special.
What does it say?
That is really something. Wow, look at that. Look
Turn
at
it
that,
around.
everybody.
Insert knife. Yeah.
See what it says on the back.
Oh, that is Santa, let me get that. Santa, that is amazingly generous that you came down and spent just a few days before Christmas to spend your time with us here in Macomb Township. I know all the boys and girls were excited to see you at the tree lighting. I am sure that they are going to be surprised that you came down and visited our community again. You must really love it here.
Well, it was fantastic the first time. All the boys and girls in Macomb Township have been exceptionally good this year. My naughty list, I think there are only just a couple. So everyone should expect a fantastic Christmas this year. I wish everyone in the township a Merry Christmas, a happy and prosperous New Year, and I will see you all in a couple of days.
Thank you, Santa.
Thank you,
Merry
Santa.
Christmas.
Thank you.
I noticed the lawyers didn't get anything.
She's over the top.
Well, that was special. Well,
Excellent.
so, I don't know how we top that, but we're going to move on to board comments. Trustee Oliver.
I got a few amendments here to ask you for. Okay, a couple quick things. Number one, Mr. Oak, thank you. Congratulations to your promotion, and thank you for your service. We appreciate that, and with all the firefighters. Number two, I want to thank and wish all our staff a Merry Christmas. They work really hard for us. They make our jobs a lot more easier, and they work in great continuity, and that's what I really appreciate, is the continuity of seeing projects start from nothing, an empty field, turn into whatever it turns into. It goes through this whole township, and I really appreciate that. So I want to wish them all Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and a good year. And for this board, I want to wish everyone here a Merry Christmas, But I also want to thank you for supervisor all my calls. Again, I call you all the time, you know that, and I appreciate that. And you always answer. And that makes a big difference in, again, making continuity to this board. So Merry Christmas to everyone, Happy New Year, and that's it.
Thank you,
I'm
Trustee.
just gonna mess around with my little 8-ball here.
Thank you, Trustee Oliver. Trustee Kuzmano.
Well, I'd like to just thank the township employees for the great job they do for the residents of Macomb Township. I'd also like to thank my fellow board members for disagreeing without not being disagreeable. I also like to thank the vendors that provide services to the township and its residents. And most of all, I'd like to thank the taxpayers, because our system, you elect us to do a job, and I think that we're doing the best job that we possibly can. And I want to just say, I know I take some unpopular decisions sometimes, but it's not because I'm trying to accuse anyone of any wrongdoing or of any untoward behavior. It's because I think it's necessary for there to be attention in regards to governance, where all sides are explored and looked at. And I thank this board for allowing me to do so without ostracizing me and belittling me and my opinions about our disagreements. So thank you to each and every one of you, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Trustee Kuzmano. Trustee Lucido.
First, to our newest firefighter, thank you for your service. Congratulations. To all of our new appointees, I know there are quite a few of them. Thank you for your service and congratulations as well. To the residents, at the end of this year, thank you for allowing me and putting your trust in me to be one of your trustees. And Merry Christmas to you all, and Merry Christmas to the board and the township staff. Thank you.
Trustee Nevers.
Yes, well, first of all, I don't know how anybody knew that he would be my favorite person. But I just like to say, I've been around the township and on this board for a long time, and everything is moving smoothly. People are getting along. There's no friction. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And I want to thank the board for their knowledge and their integrity, and for everybody getting along. And it's special. And I want to wish everybody congratulations that were reappointed. Good point there, Pete. And Merry Christmas to everybody. And I hope next year will be a peaceful and blessed year. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Nevers. Treasurer Drollet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been in politics a long time, but at the state level, at the county level, at various levels of governance. And I can tell you, working together with the members of this board, with our staff, our department heads, everybody involved as an employee and a vendor, and with our residents, this really is the greatest political job in the world. I mean, we've got an amazing team that supports the township here. We've got great residents that that put their faith in us and really don't make a huge number of demands. These people that live in Macomb Township generally are good at providing for themselves and expecting the township to do its job. So we really do have the best elective jobs in the world in this particular township. Compared to what I've seen all around in the political environment, we're very, very lucky board, and I feel very privileged to be a part of it. So I wish everybody in Macomb Township a great and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Treasurer Gillette. Clerk Posey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too just want to congratulate all the individuals that were appointed or reappointed to all of our boards. Also, congratulations to Mr. Oak, and thank you for your service. I want to point out too that I appreciate Mr. Wanglin extending with us. That transition is going to be a big transition for the township, and your commitment to making sure that runs smoothly is very much appreciated. Merry Christmas to Macomb Township, our residents, to our staff, and to this board. I too have experienced something this year that I hadn't experienced in the previous 4 years, and it's been delightful to come to work. It's been a pleasure to show up on Wednesdays. I used to dread them, but it's been a great year, and I look forward to it continuing in the next year. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Clerk Posey. I want to thank Clerk Posey for stealing my thunder in regards to Mr. Wanglin. Jerry has generously, for those of you who didn't know the details of the LOU that we agreed to tonight, Mr. Wanglin has generously agreed to stay on a number of months to help us with this very important transition. Our water and sewer department and our soon-to-be DPW department is literally one of the most critical, it's one of those critical functions in the township. It's amazing what would happen if all of our sewer toilets start flushing. So Jerry, thank you for keeping us going and for keeping us, allowing us access to your knowledge and experience for the next few months as we move on to our, to the next person who's going to hopefully do half as good a job as you have done for us. So thank you for that. I want to echo what my board members here have said about each other tonight. This board has been fantastic. I mean, my first year feels like a blur. The things that we've discussed and accomplished, I'm proud of. I know we have a lot more we're going to be able to do. The employees, all of you, have done an amazing job keeping new people like me and Leon abreast of what's going on and bringing us up to speed very quickly, and welcoming of our new ideas, no matter how crazy Santa in a helicopter might be. Everyone manages to grin and put up with us anyway. The professionalism on this board has been just exemplary. And one of my goals when I first got elected was to turn Macomb Township from a community that had its black eyes and was often regarded with a little bit of, just maybe not regarded quite as highly as we would all like, into what I believe we can become is the example for how everyone else should conduct themselves. And I think we've done that already here on this board by the way we discuss business. Nobody takes it personally. We agree when we disagree. It's professional. It stays here in the boardroom. And I think that example has a lot more to do with the 6 people that I'm sitting with, more so than it has anything to do with me. You've all been remarkable colleagues, and I appreciate you. So thank you, and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody. Please remember that we are closed. Town Hall is closed from December 23rd through January 3rd. However, those of you wishing to pay taxes, which is a terrible thing to have to do around Christmas time, but it's the Treasury Department will be open on Monday, December 27th from 8 to 5. So other than that, I'm looking forward to a great 2022. Happy New Year. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Support.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Motion by Treasurer Gillette, supported by Trustee Nevers, to adjourn tonight's meeting. Members, please vote.
Who's one voted no?
So this puts at 7,
Wanna keep the
8,
fun
11.
going, right, Frank?
Right. What did yours say?
Means
Waiting,
Down.
waiting,
motion to adjourn.
waiting.
Did you vote?
Call the question, Mr. Chair.
No, too late. Too late. We're just
Call the
waiting
question on the vote to adjourn.
Nevers didn't vote.
Save.
Yes,
She's stalling.
sorry. I got so excited.
Motion passes 7-0. This meeting is adjourned.